All good.
All right, everybody. Uh, English officials are in midseason form. Arsenal's already robbed of a goal. We have major player injuries to discuss. Um, and the season has not even started. Of course, the transfer window is moving. Welcome to we have a lot of possible transfers to discuss there. Welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner Pod here on Twitter, here on YouTube, and across the internet. Regular cast is present. I am Raphael, joined this week by my regulars. Joining me from London to my left is Ryan. Welcome, Ryan.
Hello, mate. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Thank you. And of course, below us on the window is Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hope everything's good.
Feels good. Feels good to be talking about Arsenal sports now. Okay, let's jump right in. Arsenal began getting closer to the end of the preseason campaign with a friendly, let's put that in quotations, against Chelsea at the Emirates over the weekend. Seemed that one team was treating it as a friendly and the other was not. 2-1 decision to Chelsea caused a lot of grumbling among the Arsenal fans for some mistakes that we see over and over again. But I guess the biggest subject was the injury, Sam, to Thomas Partey. Not a player they wanted to be losing at this point. He seemed to be playing very well in the match at the time of the injury.
Yeah, Thomas Partey is just, when you watch him in real life, you appreciate him even more. The geezer's an absolute unit. He gets about the pitch. He breaks everything up. When he's going in for challenges, you don't actually realise how much work he puts in. But yeah, I think it's Ruben Loftus-Cheek challenge from behind, caught Partey quite high on the ankle after. Partey got caught in the penalty area, and it frankly wasn't a challenge that needed to be made because there wasn't a chance that Loftus-Cheek was making the ball. Andre Mariner, less said about him, the better. But ultimately, if we're looking at Partey's injury, if it's a high ankle sprain, then you're looking probably about 6 weeks-ish. So
6 to 8, those are right. Those are hard to predict.
Yeah.
And frustrating.
Extremely. So you're probably looking after the international break. So any plans that Arsenal had to use Partey and to build around Partey in pre-season's just gone up in smoke. So it might have to be a slight tweak to the system moving into the season.
Oh, and of course, it's doubly frustrating because, again, we know he came in on deadline day and immediately suffered injuries. And Arsenal did not get to really kind of take him out of the box, so to speak, for at least 6 weeks on his initial arrival in London. Ryan, does this change the team's thinking? You know, when the last time we did a pod, we were still talking about Manuel Locatelli. I mean, that one seems to finally have run its course. It does seem that he's going to wind up at Juve one way or the other. But in the interim, Bruno Guimaraes from Lyon has come back on the radar. The Brazilian, he's playing on the Olympic team. His name has popped back up as a possible replacement for Locatelli. Of course, all of this presumed Granit Xhaka was going to go to Roma, and I guess that gets us, Thomas Partey's injury gets us to point B. The simplest task is for Arsenal to hang on to their captain, and that looks like it's happening. I don't know if it's official, but it seems very quickly the manager convinced him to stay. It looks like they've given him a 2-year extension. Granit Xhaka is the lifeboat, at least in the short term.
Yeah, and I think I know Arsenal have been getting battered online for giving Xhaka an extension, but when you look at it realistically, he's going into the last year of his contract. Well, next summer he'll be in the last year of his contract. We've given him a 2-year extension with a slight pay rise. I don't think it's that bad because I was saying to Sam on Sunday, he come on and you could see straight away what he is to this team. He was demanding more from his teammates. He was leading. He was marshalling, and he was literally the captain of the team without the armband. And I don't think it's a bad thing that he's staying. Obviously, we wanted an upgrade, but if you can't get an upgrade, then there's no point selling Xhaka for the cheap if you can't get someone better. Not saying there's not better out there, but if you Gomes from Leon, obviously we've been linked to him. Looks like he still has that 20% third party ownership, which means we'd have to pay a lot more than what Leon are asking for. So I don't think that will happen. So in the short term, if Xhaka has another standout season, he's still tied to 3 years at Arsenal next summer. If someone else comes in, when normality has gone back, is back, and teams have more money, we could potentially sell him on next summer for a lot more than what Roma were offering.
Well, again, let's stay with him. Again, the question, this seems to kind of knock down this idea. We heard rumors probably coming from Italy because, as we said, week after week after week, Arsenal doesn't talk. But it was that he did not want to sign an extension. He wanted to leave. It was mutually agreed. It was time for him to go. But the speed with which this came together seems that rumor was really puffed up. The manager clearly wanted him to stay. And it didn't take very much convincing, Ryan, for him to say, okay.
No, but from our understanding, he refused to enter negotiations in March, April time for an extension. So it was on the cards for a while that Arsenal were offering him a new deal, but he didn't want to get into it. I think he wanted a fresh start away from all the abuse, all the stigma around him currently at Arsenal, like the Xhaka moments, if you like,
Yeah.
and I think it was universally agreed that we would sell him for the right price, and we didn't get that price, so we don't sell him. I think it's pretty normal for that to happen. To be fair, if you don't get what you want, then he stays here.
All right. Well, let's stay with the match because again, obviously Thomas Partey's injury is huge matter, but his pivot partner, we've seen him in the other matches. Albert Lokonga, Sam, is doing nothing to dampen the expectations of Arsenal fans. He's really kind of taken to playing for this club and playing at a Prem level.
Yeah, absolutely. He done more in 5 minutes than what El Neni done for the majority of the game, to be perfectly honest with you. Lokonga is a guy that will always demand the ball and always try to look forward. He won't differ on the ball. He will constantly just get that ball going. So it quickens Arsenal's attack. And one of the criticisms that been levied at Arsenal over the last couple of years is that it's been too slow in the build-up. With Lokonga being there, that speeds it up. He's got that quick thinking. He's got that little burst of pace to get away from players. He's not scared of a challenge. He will stick himself about once he grows into his frame. Ryan and I were saying it could be Vieira 2.0. So if he fulfills the potential, it's over for most of the centre midfielders in this league. But I think with him, and obviously with Partey's injury, I know it's a big ask to put on his shoulders, but he needs to start in the Premier League over El Neni.
That was going to be the second question. Obviously, with Partey out, that's a lot of pressure on this young man. But can, at least in the first month or so, until that international break, when the team can reassess Partey's ankle injury, and maybe in the next few weeks, so the window is still open. It's not closing tomorrow, but is Xhaka Lokonga a feasible, duo in the middle of the park going forward, at least in the short term, in your opinion?
I think it is. I think that's probably our strongest partnership behind Partey and Xhaka as it stands currently. When Xhaka was on, Lokonga was on, Xhaka was talking to Lokonga, Lokonga was speaking to Xhaka. They're in good tandemonium with each other, so it could be a budding partnership. It'd be interesting to see how they perform against Brentford. But I think at this moment in time, I'd go Xhaka Lokonga at Brentford, and probably Xhaka El Neni for Chelsea.
Hmm. Okay, let's talk about other positions. Everybody's excited about the Conga. Everybody's disappointed about Partey. A lot of chatter, Ryan, about the real kind of inconsistent play from the Arsenal forward players. Apparently, specifically the strikers, the veteran strikers. Again, we don't know what Alexander Lacazette's status is, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to leave. It does appear that the club would like him to move. And we're going to get to Lautaro Martinez in a couple of minutes. And those of you waiting for that, we'll talk about him. Stick around. But it's Aubameyang is still an enigma. I think the polite is give him time. It's preseason. He's knocking off the rust. But I know just following the two of you, and you two were watching him live, there is cause for concern now, is there not?
Yeah, and I said to Sam, I think it's coming to the point where it's past the bad patch stage. He was doing everything right. He was making the runs in behind, he was pressing well, but anytime he got in the box, he had a touch in the box. It was wayward, it was clumsy, it was just not Aubameyang. And he missed a sitter from 5 or 6 yards out with a header. He was 1v1, couldn't get past the defender on the run. I can't remember, was it Dujon Sterling who came on, just completely outpaced him, and I was like, whoa, that doesn't usually happen. So I think maybe could it be the start of a decline for Aubameyang? It's tough to say because he's doing everything right. Just that final click is not coming at the moment. And with Lacazette, I've had enough with that guy. I watched him on Sunday, and I swear to you, he was playing like a central midfielder. Partey was playing further forward than he was, and he's just so lazy. There's an instance, I've got a screenshot on my phone. I should have brought it up. But Partey plays the ball through to Aubameyang, and Lacazette is deeper than where Onene was.
Mm.
He needs to be on the forward line, on the last defender, so Aubameyang can cross it in for him, and he just wasn't. And that is Lacazette's issue. That is Arsenal's forward line's issue. That no one is ever in the penalty area.
All right, and that Sam, let's cover one more area before we move on to the transfers, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the transfers, and there's a lot to discuss, a lot of fresh rumors, a lot of fresh news, encouraging news, by the way. But let's not leave Chelsea behind, the Chelsea match behind, because there was also concern at the back. Bernd Leno's now coming back for more criticism, specifically about his fit, his ability to work the ball out, to play out on the floor the way the manager wants. Partly, I know you two were talking about his service to Xhaka, and we're seeing a lot of repeats of a lot of the hanging his forwards or his midfielders out to dry that we saw from last year. And this is not something Arsenal can really take into the new season, can
they? Well, there's two parts that I'm going to come with this. I'm going to talk about Leno, then I'm also going to speak about the centre defence, because the two are in tandem with each other. In regards to Leno, we all know Leno's quality is shot stopping. He's a phenomenal shot stopper, but ball at his feet, there are some questions there. I think with the way that Arteta is asking them to play out, we want the centre-backs to split and the centre midfielder to come and essentially make the third centre-back to then try and turn out and spray it wide. But with this, we don't do it at a speed that other teams can't adapt to. We do it at such a slow speed, other teams adapt and they're honest instantly. Now, Leno should be seeing that Xhaka's got somebody up him and be clipping it directly into the fullbacks. But I think the way that we probably are at the moment, I would question whether this is the right way to play. I understand that it's great risk, great reward, but with the current current lineup that we've got at the back, it's for me, it's not feasible. Moving on to the defense do not help Leno in these situations either because they take up such narrow positions and they essentially cut the passing lane for the oppositions themselves. Um, it's just not the right way to go. I think if we're going to be doing it, it needs to be clipped into the fullbacks and essentially move us up the pitch quicker.
Okay.
With
All right.
just quickly, just with the Chelsea game as well. I know that Arteta likes to do defender to attacker, and do a kind of a man to man thing, but Rob Holding needs to learn how and when to do this because every single time he's in no man's land. If you look at the first goal, he's pressing, but he's not pressing anybody. He's just pressing space. He's horrendously out position, left us one on one, and quite frankly, he done it for the majority of the first half. And I'm not surprised that he got hooked at half time. I said to Ryan, he can't think that he had a good half because that was shambolic. And if that's the type of defending that Rob Holding's going to produce in the season, we're in trouble.
And again, relying on secondary players is going to be an issue because it doesn't seem that Gabriel is not going to be available given the Olympics. Gentlemen, all right, so let's move forward from these because all of these feed into transfer rumors. And we're getting a lot of questions in the chat about the transfer rumors. Let's start with keeper. Okay. We were just talking about Bernd Leno. Rumors coming out in the last few hours that Sam Johnstone is now kind of moved up in the pecking order. Some rumors that he's being held out by West Brom. A lot of assumptions that it might be Sam. I'll just let you pick up the baton, and we'll move back into this, and we'll let Ryan take a crack at this as well. But it does seem that Arsenal may be moving. They've seen this, and they say, "Hey, we've got to upgrade." Has he become the priority at keeper, in your opinion, as the second to challenge Leno?
I think, given the price and the experience of Sam Johnston, I think that'll be a good acquisition. For me, my preference is Ramsdale, but looking at stats, they're quite similar in terms of the goalkeeping aspect. And I think with Leno, he needs somebody to really challenge him. And I think Johnston will be able to do that. And I think if he's got a better defence in front of him, he'll start showing higher levels.
All right. We're now into the transfer section. We kind of wrung out what we could from the Chelsea match. Thanks. We're starting with Johnston. Ryan, let's move forward. It does seem now that Arsenal's priorities, and we'll talk about Hector Bellerin in a moment, because it looks like he, like Granit Xhaka, might in fact be staying. I think that will disappoint people. But it does seem that as far as if you have two categories for the remainder of the window, what would you like to have and what do you need to have that, given what we've seen so far, that a number 10 and a number 9 and a second keeper might be those must-haves? Is that a fair assessment in your opinion? And then we'll move to the number 10. But let's start with that. Is they don't have much time to go out and get 5 or 6 people, but if you needed 3, should you begin there?
Yeah, I think backup goalkeeper is obviously a massive one because I'm not having Runnison play again. I'm sorry, but after that City game, I'm watching him in pre-season as well. He played against, Watford in the second half. He was dreadful, and he only played 45 minutes. So we can't have him as backup. So I don't. I want Ramsdale, but I'm not paying 25 plus
30,
for him.
30 million.
Yeah,
35.
I wouldn't do
Seems
that.
like every time you look at it, it goes up another 5 million.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that because people level at Ramsdale that he can't play with the ball, and he absolutely can. You just have to watch his games at Bournemouth, and he can play out from the back. Just want to get that out there. And yeah, backup goalkeeper, number 10, number 9. As long as Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah leave, number 9 will. Oh, let me rephrase that. As long as Lacazette and Eddie are still here, number 9 is a priority. because neither of them are good enough to lead our line. Aubameyang's losing it, and you can't. It'd be naive to throw all your trust on Balogun as well. So definitely a number 9 is a priority for me.
All right, Sam, we'll come back to you, Ryan. Let's talk about names, but the hot name today, we talked about him in the last pod, Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. Obviously, Tammy Abraham, and let's kind of start a little debate here, but let's go to the Martinez rumor. Obviously, he's available. It seems like a lot of questions, a lot of skepticism, as there usually is with a player of his caliber. When he's linked with Arsenal, there's kind of a knee-jerk response like, "Oh no, Arsenal would never get him," And we heard that with Nico Pepe. And obviously, as we said in last week's pod, Martinez last summer was being linked with Real Madrid and especially with Barcelona to be Luis Suarez's replacement. COVID interfered with all that. COVID threw the world market for a loop. And now it seems Arsenal have a clear path to this player, 23 years old, entering his prime. Is this just too good to pass up?
Yeah, if Lautaro Martinez is there, you take Lautaro Martinez. It's no shadow of a doubt. We need to start forward planning in terms of our centre forward position as well, because with Lacazette and Aubameyang both in a steep decline at the moment, it needs looking at and addressing. Now, his goal scoring stats aren't that impressive, but if you look at what he actually brings to the pitch, it's not measured in stats, and that's again with his work rate, his pressing, the way he does off the ball runs. It's something that we have missed greatly, and Ryan will testify at the game, looking at Lacazette and how bloody lazy this geezer is. It would be a massive improvement, and I think overall, as most football players know, you press from the front, and if we've got somebody doing that, it engages the whole team to go and do it. And when you've got Lacazette being lazy up front and Aubameyang just pretty much standing next to the player, not making an effort to put a foot in, the rest of the team sit back and we're like, oh, okay, we'll just let other teams come onto us. And it's something there needs to change, because other teams are dictating to us and not the other way around, and that needs to change pronto.
All right, and let's talk about his statistics. I mean, they're still very impressive, especially when you consider at Inter, he's playing kind of a second striker and he's playing with Romelu Lukaku, who's going to get the lion's share of those goals. So projecting him into Arsenal's lineup, Arsenal's formation, where they play with a single striker, what kind of, you would assume that he would have higher projections, no?
Depends, because I don't believe he's actually led the line himself in a single striker team. But I think it also depends on how quickly he adapts to the Premier League, because obviously we know it's more physical. We know that he's got that South American bite to him, so he's got the appetite to pick it up and ruffle feathers. It's just a case of whether we can get the service in behind him right. Because if we can get somebody that feeds the ball in behind, he'll have a field day. He'll be like how Aguero was probably about 5-6 years ago. Somebody that thrives off the front line like that. But it's just a case of finding the right service for him.
All right. And Sam mentions the South American bite. I mean, Ryan reminds me of, Arsene Wenger's point when he went out and he was looking at the market and he brought in a guy. You've compared him to another number 7 at Arsenal who did really well, from Chile, who had a South American bite to him. Can Lautaro Martinez fit at other positions? Does he have other flexibility?
Yeah, you've already mentioned he plays second striker for Inter. I don't see why he couldn't play as a number 10 for us, or even from the left like Alexis did. Alexis played on the left for us, but he wasn't a left winger. Only until the last few months of his time at Arsenal, where he just stuck out on the left wing. When he played for us, he was inside, on the right, on the left. And that's what Arsenal kind of lack, is the fluidity in the forward players that they don't interchange as much, because I don't think I'm gonna ever see Lacazette swap positions with Aubameyang on the left, and I don't think I'd see Lacazette swap with Pepe and go to the right. I was saying to Sam, I noticed it on Sunday. Aubameyang's gone to the right to chase a player. Pepe's come inside, and Lacazette has basically told Pepe to chase on the left where Aubameyang was because he could be bothered to do it. And that really stuck with me, because now we're being linked to Martinez. We're being linked to these type of strikers. They can they can play in these positions, all four forward positions. So there's a lot of tactical fluidity, a lot of versatility in there. So he would suit pretty much any of the forward positions.
All right, stay with striker, Sam. Martinez isn't the only option. You know, we've been talking for 2-3 weeks now about Tammy Abraham. Chelsea want to move him on. He was available. Saw about a week ago they were being quoted. Arsenal was being quoted, and other clubs being quoted. £40 million as the price to obtain him. Last couple of days, it seems Chelsea have lowered that to 30 million. Maybe it's, they've got the same situation Arsenal does. They're trying to move a lot of players, and the market is soft. Could this be a situation where, let's think pie in the sky? Could Arsenal entertain both? They're not the same kind of striker. Could they complement each other? Seems Arsenal could afford it if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I think definitely if both of them come in, I think that they can complement each other. I was saying earlier this morning in the group chat, I think that Martinez is the dream striker to come in, well, dream forward to come in, but actually Tammy probably fits the system better if you look playing a lone striker, because obviously he's got the height, he can link up play, he's got the build to hold off and pin defenders. For a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", he has got some of the silkiest feet I've seen in a long time. Watching him on Sunday, there was a scenario where he was being closed by two players and he's just tricked his way out of it and just drove to our penalty box. So I think with Tammy, there's a lot that people underestimate about him. But to be perfectly honest with you, if you want to underestimate him, so be it. If he comes to Arsenal, he goes into the positions and scores, then absolutely superb. And I think there's a stat that stands out with me as well, is that he is the highest scoring under 22 forwards. And that includes like Harry Kane. I think Tammy had something like 69 by the time he was 22. Harry Kane was on 50, 52, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, this guy is a goal scorer. And with how unclinical Arsenal strikers are at the moment, we need to start swapping them out for clinical strikers.
Ryan, Tammy Abraham did nothing to dampen the rumors after the match. It seems he sought out Mikel Arteta. Everybody looked at that. Everybody started looking at each other and saying, what's going on here? You saw it. What were you thinking?
It kind of threw me off a little bit, because Arteta's there shaking all of the Arsenal players' hands, and then suddenly Tammy Abraham just diverts his walk over to Arteta, daps him up a little bit, gives him the little cheeky grin, and then off they pop. And I was like, interesting. It looked like they wanted to talk a little bit, but Arteta knew better than that.
Yeah, he under contract to a rival. You know how to stay on the right side of those tapping up lines. But let's stay with attack again. If Granit Xhaka is staying, and he is, and because of injury, because the Locatelli market's gone cold, as you said, Bruno Guimaraes has got third-party ownership. He's also playing in the Olympics, so he's not going to be available for a while. So he's going to have the same problem for another reason that Thomas Partey presents. He can't be plugged in to fill that need. But Arsenal was ready to throw 40 million at Sassuolo for Locatelli. That 40 million can now go elsewhere. We've talked about it, Martinez, that it's probably earmarked for Martinez, but we haven't talked about the number 10. And Arsenal, more rumors that the I don't want to say off again, but the boil to low simmer to boil, it's hotted up again for James Maddison. What can you tell us? What's the latest there?
Well, Chris Wheatley, who many regard as possibly tier one for Arsenal news, tweeted out today that Arsenal have proposed a cash plus player offer for James Maddison. It's not been confirmed who the player is yet, but it's of our understanding as likely either Reece Nelson or Ainsley Maitland-Niles, because Leicester have both scouted and asked about their availability previously. So I think he also said that another London club has made a similar offer. I have no idea who that could be. Probably the scum down the lane. But and then
Well,
Jacobs,
they still haven't received their Harry Kane money though.
no,
Let's be clear there.
and Jacob Steinberg also from the Guardian said similar that Arsenal want James Maddison, and James Maddison is keen on a move to the Emirates. And I just want to put it out there that Arsenal are gargantuan. We can attract these sort of players and finish eighth. So imagine what it'd be like if we actually finished in the Champions League. If we was Premier League winners, or we'd be attracting Mbappe at this rate if we was in the Champions League and that. Because these sorts of players, they just want to come to us because we're the history, because of the legacy, and so hopefully it happens.
Okay, Sam. Earlier in the pod, we were talking about in the must-have. Okay, so let's say Johnstone is the keeper. Let's say Maddison is the 10, and either Martinez or Abraham is the number 9. Does that satisfy you before the end of the window? Is Arsenal done what they needed to do heading into the season if that comes to pass?
Don't get me wrong, that would still be very good. But for it to be excellent, I still think that we need to bring in another centre midfielder, personally, because it's always that quote, Arsenal's one injury away from a crisis.
Mm.
And in centre midfield, we are an injury away from a crisis. I know you've potentially got Aziz to step up into the first team, but personally, I would have liked him to go out on loan. I don't think that he's necessarily ready yet to be stepping into the first team. That's not to say that I doubt his talent. I know the talent's there, but I just think that he needs that loan for that bit of experience. But ultimately, if we was to bring somebody in, I'd like it to be Bruno Guimaraes. Would have loved for him to come initially, or probably look at someone like Ruben Neves.
Okay, and what this is leading me to with Bruno, again, being at the Olympics, Bruno's going to have to go on holiday. Are we looking at another Partey-like deadline day? I mean, it makes sense, because we know Lyon needs money. That's not going to change between now and deadline day. But given the availability of the player, might Arsenal look at other, look at the 9, look at Maddison, and then circle back to filling this need on deadline day? Is that something you think could come to pass? Same with you, Sam. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that could be a possibility because essentially there's no rush in completing for Bruno Guimaraes. But I think if we want to get him, as Ryan said, possibly a third-party ownership, there might be more money that needs to be pushed towards that player. But again, it's a player that it's another opportunity you just don't pass up on.
And again, let's talk about him. We haven't talked about him as a player. Compare him to Granit Xhaka. And I know both of you have done studies on this. I mean, Granit's not going anywhere, but what could Bruno offer other than besides being younger that put him with Lokonga? How would those two fit?
Is this staying with me? Or
yeah. I'm staying with you, and then I'll let Ryan take a shot at this.
Right. Basically, in terms of this, it's everything that Xhaka is. Bruno Guimaraes is better. And if you're looking at heat maps across with Partey or Lokonga, Guimaraes, although right-footed, tends to stick in the same sort of spaces that Granit Xhaka does, but also comes higher up as a little bit of a box to box as well. And if you look at Partey's heat maps, they're very different. So they're not going to be taking up each other's spaces on the pitch. He's very aggressive on the pitch. He likes to play short passes. He's got a very good passing range as well. He's quite adept at through balls. He's a very progressive passer. And again, I think that is a key area which Arteta wants in his midfielders now is progressive passers. He doesn't want the side to side crab football. So looking at that, it again adds more dimension to the Arsenal midfield. And essentially, if Partey's doing it from the right hand side, we would have another player doing it from the left. And that's not to say that Granit Xhaka doesn't do it, but sometimes it needs to be a bit quicker.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to let you take cracks at this. First off, on a scale of 1 to 10, deadline day, what are the odds? What number do you assign? 10 being the absolutely, 1 being no chance that they're in for Bruno the last 3 or 4 days of the window?
I'm going to say 4.
4?
4
That's
out
pretty
of 10.
low.
Yeah. It's just the third party. It's just such a pain in the ass to get around because you have to agree a fee with Leon, then you have to agree a price with the other ownership, and they could ask for stupid amounts. So,
but at the same time, they let him go to Lyon. So, might there be a way around that?
There could be, but then you also got to think: have they let him go to Lyon because of this reason that he performed so well, and then he'll get a bigger move at a later date and get more money?
And now they come in for their big payday, maybe.
Especially with COVID and financial situation of everyone. So that could be their payday.
Okay, so is there another complementary defensive mid if they're not going for Bruno? If this is too much red tape to sort through, and they need that depth, who might they turn to at this point? Because there goes Bruno and Locatelli, who are probably number 1 and number 2 in your targets entering the window.
I have a sneak feeling. I said it to Sam earlier. I've got a sneaky suspicion that there might be a certain Welshman from Italy on loan towards the end of the window.
It's funny you mentioned that, okay? Because I've been reading the Italian papers, and La Gazzetta dello Sport yesterday had a story where they spoke to Juve's manager, and he was talking about the role that where can Aaron Ramsey play, and the thinking is that they're going to try Aaron Ramsey as a defensive mid partner with Locatelli when they finally get him. So there you go. It kind of seems to fit what you're proposing. Now, I don't think that's how Arsenal would use him. I don't think that's how Mikel Arteta would want to use him. But it does seem that if people are thinking that maybe at this point in his career, just to lessen the wear and tear on his legs, that's not such a crazy idea.
No, and I think he has the IQ and the intelligence to play in that position. But you know what Ramsey's like. He gets those little moments where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take everyone on and take a shot from 45 yards." But if he can curb it, and I can see him being a defensive midfielder because he has all of the attributes. He has the engine, he has the defensive awareness, the positional awareness, and he can pass, which helps in that position. And he's not scared under pressure, so I think he could play there, definitely.
Just know that none of those blind backheel passes right in front of his own box, though. That's in the past.
True.
All right. All right. So, gentlemen, let's just kind of wind this down. It looks like the options, the targets are narrowing. We come to this every week. Let's talk about it now. Martinez, Abraham, Maddison, Johnstone, Ramsdale, those 5 players are in play. How many of those, I'll start with you, Ryan, because I made you wait a little bit. How many of those are going to come in before deadline day, in your opinion, and which ones? There's your menu.
I think we're going to get 3.
And what combination do you predict?
I think we'll get Johnston. I think we'll get Maddison, and I think we'll get Tammy Abraham.
Okay. Sam, what do you think of that menu? First off, is it a realistic menu? Are there other players? We haven't talked about right back yet. Maybe we'll circle back to that, but finish this question and we'll talk about right back to wrap up.
I would say the same as Ryan, but instead of Tammy, it'd be Martinez.
Okay. Well, again, would those three satisfy you? You say yes. These are necessary, important improvements to the club.
I would say 75%. Yes.
Okay. What's the missing 25%?
Centre midfielder.
Okay. Ryan, what about you? If those were the three.
Yeah, I'm the same as Sam. I'd go as far as to say it's 50% for me because I do think we need another right back. And I watched, I kept a close eye on Callum Chambers on Sunday, and my God, I didn't realise how slow he was. It doesn't look like it on TV, but he was pulling a parachute when he was chasing back, and it's a bit worrying if he is to be our starter right back.
Well, that position has gone just quiet, partially again. Hector's still in the club. We thought he'd be at Inter. Cedric is still at the club. We thought he'd be somewhere else. Are one or two of those going to leave? And, what are the conditions that would make Arsenal go out in the market and pursue another right back, a younger right back, Max Aarons, who we've been talking about forever, for example?
So I know full well that the price Norwich are quoting for Max Aaron starts with a 5. So I don't think that's going to happen personally. But for Arsenal to sign a right back, you need Bellerin to leave because he's on 100 plus a week. He's been linked to Inter. I do think he will probably end up at Atletico at the moment because it looks like Dallo from United is going to AC Milan, which means United can buy Trippier, which means Atletico will have the money for Bellerin. And I think we would rather sell him permanently than loan him to Atletico.
Mm-hmm. And also, it seems as much as Hector likes Inter at the beginning of the window, story was he'd prefer to go back to Spain.
Yeah. I think he would rather go back home, closer to his family. And there's rumours today that Fenerbahce have taken steps to sign in Cedric. So if both of them leave, we'll potentially see a right back coming in. But again, the right back market is such a dead place right now. You just don't know where to turn.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question for you, Sam. Where would you turn? Do you know anything that Ryan doesn't as far as right backs go? I mean, it seems like Norwich is putting a price tag that's there to scare Arsenal away.
Yeah, obviously we know that Arsenal done the tour of the right backs early on in the transfer window. I can't say that I was impressed with many of the right backs that we was being linked to. I suppose if Dumfries is still available, then maybe visit that avenue. But yeah, I'd say Max Aarons is the one. But if you're looking at something, looking at a 50 plus, then no.
So right back, final question, right back, not happening in your opinion, given these changes and conditions. Sam, you go first.
I would hesitate to say yes, but the likeliness is that no.
Okay, Ryan, any chance now with Norwich playing hardball?
No, not at that price. But there's a interesting comment in the chat saying to try and persuade Maitland-Niles to play there. I mean, it's a good option. I think he is actually perfect for that role. He's quick. He can play defensive. He can play attacking, and he can play in central midfield. Because as Sam pointed out to me on Sunday, Chambers was basically a central midfielder for half of the game. So obviously, if Ainsley wants to play in midfield, the fluidity of that position, he will be a midfielder for most of the game anyway. But again, I think he's being used as a make weight for Maddison.
Okay, and it is puzzling that he would not jump at that opportunity, because again, it would so much playing time. But that's a topic for the next pod. All right, so we want to thank all of you for joining us here on the Daily Gooner Pod here on YouTube. Follow us online at our website at thedailygooner.com. Follow us on Twitter at Daily Gooner Pod. Follow each of us at our individual Daily Gooner Sam, Daily Gooner Ryan, Daily Gooner Ref, for more chatter, for more updates. Again, thank you. Hope we will have new material for you, new signings. You know, we didn't talk a lot about Ben White in the hustle of rumors and news, but we'll bring him back. We'll see more of him hopefully when we come back. So again, for Sam, for Ryan, I'm Raphael. Thank you and good night from this episode of Daily Gooner Pod.